Recently, 5 extremely rare red heifers from Texas landed in Israel. For most people, this might seem like just a curious fact about cattle, but for those who study ancient prophecies, this event represents a historic moment. The first concrete step toward the rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem, a central event in Jewish and Christian apocalyptic prophecies. The chance of such an animal being born naturally is 1 in 200,000. For 2,000 years, many believed that these cows would never reappear, and without them, the rebuilding of the temple would remain impossible. Now, this barrier has been officially removed. At the same time, scientists in Israeli laboratories have achieved an equally extraordinary feat. They have resurrected biblical-era plants that have been extinct for over 1,000 years, recovering medicinal properties. Described in ancient texts, this represents the literal restoration of elements of the Holy Land, mentioned in the scriptures. Throughout history, civilizations have tried to predict the end of the world. The Mayans marked 2012. Nostradamus pointed to signs in the 16th century, and the Y2K bug caused panic in 1999. But this time, we are not talking about speculations. What makes these current events different is that they are exactly the specific signs described in the sacred scriptures, happening precisely in the location and sequence predicted millennia. Are we really witnessing the beginning of the countdown to the end of times? That's what we will discover in today's video. If you like topics like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, as we are preparing surprising content for the coming days. The Red Heifer, a prophetic key to the end. The ritual of the Red Heifer, described in chapter 19 of the Book of Numbers, is the only procedure prescribed in the scriptures capable of removing the ritual impurity caused by contact with corpses. This purification is absolutely necessary for anyone to enter the temple or participate in sacred rituals. Unlike other sacrifices, this one took place outside the tabernacle, pointing to its unique purpose: to create the waters of purification, without which no priest could resume their service in the temple. The ritual was so rare that, according to the Talmud, only 9 red heifers were sacrificed in all of history before the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD. The 10th heifer, according to Jewish tradition, is directly linked to the coming of the Messiah, and it is said that he himself will sacrifice it. For a red heifer to be considered valid, the requirements are quite strict. It must be entirely red, and no more than 2 hairs of another color can appear on the entire body. The animal must also have no physical defects and must never have been used for work. Ancient rabbis examined even the roots of the hairs to ensure the uniformity of the color, a requirement impossible to forge or manipulate. What makes the event of 2022 historically significant is that, for the first time in 2,000 years, potentially eligible heifers have arrived in Israel. The initiative, led by the Temple Institute in partnership with American breeders, is part of a careful plan to prepare all the necessary elements for the rebuilding of the temple. To be considered fit, the heifers must reach the age of 3 without developing any imperfections. If during this period hairs of another color or any skin marks appear, the animal will be disqualified. Rabbi Che Richman, director of the Temple Institute, declared, "After 2 millennia, we now have the real possibility of resuming this fundamental ritual. It is an unprecedented historic moment. These heifers are kept under strictly controlled conditions, with carefully selected feed and stables cleaned daily. Surveillance cameras monitor every movement 24 hours a day. All of this is because, according to the prophecies, without the ashes of the red heifer, the Third Temple cannot function according to biblical laws. In ancient times, the heifer was sacrificed and completely burned, along with cedar wood, hyssop, and wool dyed crimson. Its ashes were then mixed with pure water to produce the waters of purification, the only means of eliminating the ritual impurity acquired by contact with the dead. This ritual is so mysterious that, according to Jewish tradition, even King Solomon, known for his wisdom, could not fully comprehend it. Many associate this difficulty with the passage in Ecclesiastes 7:23, where he states, "I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me." Although the Bible does not directly mention the red heifer in this context, rabbinic commentaries interpret this verse as an admission that certain divine decrees, such as this ritual, are beyond human understanding. While the heifers grow in Israel, other preparations are advancing rapidly. The Temple Institute has already recreated more than 60 sacred utensils based on biblical descriptions, including the impressive 75-kilogram golden menorah, the table of the bread, and the meticulously embroidered priestly garments. In October 2023, a ritual that had not been performed for centuries was revived near the Western Wall. The water libation, conducted by the Kohanim, who are the genetically confirmed descendants of the ancient Jewish priestly class. These were practical rehearsals for the rituals that will one day be performed in the Third Temple. The architectural plans have already been drawn up, priests are being trained, and the utensils are ready. The only missing piece was the Red Heifer, and it has finally arrived. Ancient seeds, the biblical restoration confirmed. Meanwhile, another extraordinary event occurred in 2020. Researchers from Hadassah University in Jerusalem managed to germinate date seeds approximately 2,000 years old, found in the same archaeological excavations where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. These seeds belong to the Judean date, a variety mentioned in biblical texts that disappeared around the 11th century. What is most impressive is not only that they have come back to life, but that genetic analyses have revealed medicinal properties superior to modern varieties exactly as described in ancient texts. The plant, named Methuselah, in reference to the biblical character who lived for centuries, possesses more potent anti-inflammatory compounds than modern dates and extraordinarily efficient DNA repair mechanisms, explaining how its genetic material remained viable for millennia. This discovery confirms descriptions in historical texts that mentioned its medicinal properties, considered superior even by doctors of the Roman Empire, the revealed prophetic connection. To understand the importance of these two events, the return of the red heifers and the resurrection of biblical plants, we need to recognize that the rebuilding of the Third Temple marks the beginning of the Messianic era. In Christian texts, particularly in the Book of Revelation and the prophecies of Daniel, the Third Temple is described as the setting for crucial events in the last days. In Islamic traditions, there are prophecies that mention the restoration of a temple in Jerusalem in the end times. For centuries, this rebuilding seemed impossible due to three major obstacles: the lack of precise knowledge about the exact location of the ancient temple, and the political impossibility of building it on the Temple Mount, where the Al-Aqsa Mosque stands today. The first obstacle was officially removed in 2022 with the arrival of the red heifers in Israel. The second has been progressively overcome by archaeological studies that have identified the original location of the temple with increasing precision. The third, however, remains the greatest challenge, although current geopolitical tensions indicate that this situation could change at any moment. The restoration of Israel as a nation in 1948, mentioned in Ezekiel 37, the return of Jews from various parts of the world, predicted in Isaiah 11:22, and the transformation of desert lands into fertile areas, described in Isaiah 35, are some of the clear signs of the progression of these prophecies. Given all the evidence, the most logical conclusion is that we are witnessing the final stages of the fulfillment of apocalyptic prophecies. This does not necessarily mean that the end is just days or months away, but it indicates that the conditions for the final events are being prepared, step by step. What do you think about this? Do you believe that these events are truly the prelude to the apocalypse, or just historical coincidences? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.